So I'm at Clayton Lake State Park in New Mexico, and it's a little bit off of the beaten path, but it's got something really unique about it. It's what's behind me, dinosaur tracks.
These are the best days. These are the best days. These are the best days of our lives, of our lives.
Let me tell you the story of how these were discovered. In 1955, the Commission of Game and Fish decided to make a lake here. There was a creek called Seneca that ran through. And so they dammed up the creek and they needed to create a spillway. And so they took dynamite and they blasted out layers of basalt and shale. Now, they didn't discover the dinosaur tracks at that point. In fact, all that did was expose lower layers to the elements. It wasn't until 1982, the year I was born, incidentally, unrelated, that the lake flooded and it washed away the extra layers that were on top of these dinosaur tracks. And so it wasn't until 1982 that these dinosaur tracks were discovered after sitting here for many thousands of years. Now, the reason why they're here is because behind me was a shoreline at some point in prehistory. There was a large lake or body of water of some kind, and this was usually very muddy. At some point in history, a volcano blew up and covered this entire area with shale and basalt and other kind of volcanic material. And so these tracks were hidden for a very long time. But here's the lesson. Just because people didn't know these tracks were here didn't mean they didn't exist. And that's kind of an analogy for my experience as I discovered the concept of eternal rewards. In the chapter in the book called Discovery, I talk about the fact that I listened to many sermons, many Bible studies, many talks about biblical themes, and only maybe one time in all of those years did I hear a talk about eternal rewards as something distinct from salvation. When I began to search for myself, I realized that the information, the concept of eternal rewards was not buried very deep. It was almost right under my feet, so to speak. And so I set out to find out how often eternal rewards are talked about in the Bible. And what I discovered is that every New Testament writer talks about eternal rewards as something distinct from salvation. So like these dinosaur tracks, those references to eternal rewards were sitting right there below the surface, ready to be discovered. Many times when we learn about something new or hear about something we never heard about before, we resist because we think, how could I never have heard of this? Well, that was my experience, but I let the Bible reshape my thinking on this subject, and it has changed my life tremendously. So I'd encourage you to soak up this chapter, learn what you can, keep an open mind. The journey is going to be great.